Thank you for watching, and welcome friends to episode 15 of Hobson's Choice. I'm Michael G. Hobson, and in this episode the G stands for gross malfeasance. The Mueller investigation is reaching critical mass. 13 Russian operatives charged with meddling in the election. Rick Gates crossing sides to implicate his boss, former campaign chairman Paul Manafort, who walks and talks like a mafia don. Putin made me an offer I couldn't refuse. But while we are focused on Manafort, it may actually be Gates who helps put the handcuffs on this president. Mafia dons rarely flip, but Gates? Manafort is 69 and facing the likelihood of spending the rest of his life in jail. To save the president, knowing full well that if the roles were reversed, he'd be given up in less than a heartbeat? So by hammering Manafort with more charges, Mueller may actually be creating a wall strong enough to withstand a presidential pardon. And while using Manafort as a distraction to everyone, the president especially, the investigative team pumps all the necessary information out of the Don's deputy. Interesting. And it makes sense. Gates was with the Mafia Don throughout the Ukrainian deals, was a partner with the Mafia Don as both ran afoul of the Kremlin and needed to raise a lot of cash fast. And legal is not fast. Gates actually outlasted the Mafia Don, sticking with the president throughout the remainder of the campaign, the election, and the inauguration. And Gates is seemingly at heart a family man, willing to sacrifice his business interests for the well-being of his family, willing to plead to a lesser sentence to keep his family out of the process. The attention of a trial would be enormous, so he chose the lesser of two evils. It seems inevitable, the investigation ending with the President of the United States being indicted and perhaps being led out of the White House in handcuffs. It happened to the governor of Missouri, led out of his office in handcuffs, so political offices are not a sanctuary for politicians. And the governor being charged with invasion of privacy is small potatoes compared to what's coming for this president. Start with money laundering. Mueller subpoenaed Deutsche Bank, the international money exchanger set up by the Kremlin in Germany and used by this president on numerous occasions over the years. This is where the president being owned by Russia comes from. When US banks stopped flowing money to the Trumps, Deutsche Bank stepped in. Then there's the conspiracy charges. After all, the man allowed a foreign adversary to buy into an election and then into a presidency. How about obstruction of justice? The James Comey firing will simply be the first in a long list of obstruction charges. And then there is a long line of US investigators eager to testify against this president. There will also be ancillary charges like breaking the emoluments clause. Hundreds of millions of dollars are being spent at Trump properties around the world as foreign leaders attempt to curry favor from the easy-to-buy president, as well as lying, cheating, stealing, sexual assault, not to mention the dozens of moral crimes he has committed against humanity that aren't criminal, but in his case, should be. He will be right about one thing, though. This investigation will go down in the history books as perhaps the biggest in U.S. history. Mueller knows Russia has leverage on the president. There isn't anyone alive from pre-birth to after death that this president will not attack, except for his family and Vladimir Putin. And Mueller has to know that while he searches for the dead bodies, Putin already knows where they are buried. Can Mueller put enough pressure on Russia to force Putin to surrender his prize stooge? In the not-too-distant future, this president will be interviewed by the special counsel. It will happen. The only choice for this president is in which setting. Either with his lawyers present, in a semi-formal setting, or after a subpoena forces him to testify before a grand jury without his lawyers present. His lawyers would rather stick needles in their eyes rather than let this president speak to Mueller alone. So the president will accept the lesser of two evils. As an aside, it's a good thing this authoritarian leader is such a bumbler. Can you imagine the danger we would be in if he was less stable genius and more evil genius, like Putin? Unless the Republican sycophants have a come-to-Jesus epiphany, the political removal of this president is lost. The Republicans have fallen lockstep behind the Republican president and are unaware or unconcerned that their country is being taken over by authoritarian policy. They have abandoned any principle, any moral sense of responsibility to the people, and have chosen a quick route to the cliff's edge, running behind this president and away from the burning country they helped set on fire. If the Democrats win the November elections and take control of the House, then perhaps articles of impeachment can be introduced, and then perhaps the country can find its rails again. If it passes the House, it would need 60 votes in the Senate. Improbable, but not impossible. At the very least, Congress might find a way to censure this president and effectively castrate him for the remainder of his term. But the criminal investigation, those are the hooks that will hang this meat. Maybe Mueller and the great dealmaker can negotiate a deal with this president who doesn't go to jail if he tattles on everyone involved in the conspiracy, including, and most specifically, the Russians. Then he produces every detail about his finances, specifically the dealings with foreign businesses, and finally resigns the presidency. But Mueller knows that he's living through the first line of his obituary, and he knows that history will color this era with opinion, but he wants to be shown in black and white, that he followed the facts to the truth. Books will be written about him, movies will be produced, there will be Hollywood gossip about who will play Mueller in the latest version of The Indictment of a President. Maybe you think I sound a little cocksure. After all, you say, a sitting president has never been indicted, so what makes me think it can happen now? I'll start with a general answer. If there ever was a president who broke the mold and was going to be the first, it is this guy. He doesn't even try to hide his corruption. The latest, his inauguration raised more than $107 million. So does the White House. Finally, under duress. But they didn't spend $107 million, so where did the money go? Apparently, with very few laws governing this, the money went into an account of an advisor to the First Lady. I am shocked, I tell you, to find gambling going on in here. As for the specifics, in 1973, the Justice Department Office of Legal Counsel wrote that a sitting president could not be indicted since a trial would keep the president from conducting his important duties. Notice the year, 1973, the year before the Supreme Court unanimously voted that Nixon needed to release the tapes. The Supreme Court denied the president's claim that the tapes were classified and that privilege should apply to the chief executive. The court unanimously upheld the fundamental constitutional principle that no person is above the law, even the president. A few weeks later, Nixon resigned. Kenneth Starr, the lead counsel into the investigation of Bill Clinton, wrote, "It is proper, constitutional, and legal for a federal grand jury to indict a sitting president for serious criminal acts that are not part of or are contrary to the president's official duties. In this country, no one, even President Clinton, is above the law." And Clinton was being charged in the cover-up of a White House affair he had with an intern. Imagine what Bob Mueller will write about this president. I've long thought that this president would resign the presidency due to ill health, either real or imagined. Create a fake heart attack or some other ailment that would preclude him from conducting his duties as America's elected authoritarian and allow him to leave on his own terms, so to speak. It would be the lesser of two evils. Till next time, my friends, be well.